Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
This film be quite nice. Have a good time. It'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good mic work commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, Smackdown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cell.
And then now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy not Saturday, actually happy Sunday. What's going on, guys, and welcome to a special Sunday edition of the Winged Eagle Podcast for October 17th, 2021. You can blame AEW for this. I apologize for going head-to-head with NFL football here in the United States. I tried to wait until after all of the daytime games were done, because I felt it was probably better to go head-to-head with one NFL game rather than a dozen. And because the next two Dynamites are on Saturdays, I figured the best time to come up and do podcasts the next couple of weeks will be Sundays. Now, I misled you guys in the post I made on YouTube yesterday saying we would pick the watch-alongs back up next Sunday, but we're not. We're going to be back up here next Sunday doing another Winged Eagle because Dynamite is on Saturday again. So we're not going to be back to do a watch-along until, get this, Halloween night. Halloween night actually is 2 Sundays from now, correct? So that's going to be when we're back, and we're definitely going to watch a Halloween Havoc. We might even watch 2. So if you're wondering where the watch-alongs were, this week and next week will be the podcast instead, and we'll pick the watch-alongs back up on October 31st. Halloween night should be a blast. I got nothing to do. Maybe pass out some candy, some little fuckers that show up here at my door. Other than that, I'll hang out with you guys on Halloween night. So that's going to kind of be where the podcast is at for the next couple of weekends until we get till the end of the month because of AEW being bumped to Saturdays for Dynamite. Just makes everything work out the best. So I'm actually glad we're up here today because normally when I'm up here on Saturdays, I do this prior to work. And a lot of times I only have, maybe 90 minutes, 2 hours to bust out a podcast where today, I got all the time in the world, so we're going to hang out. We have got so much shit to get into. I spent most of the time during my podcast prep just organizing the notes in terms of the order in which I want to talk about this stuff because there's a lot to discuss. There's lots of wrestling results, lots of wrestling news. We got a couple of pay-per-views coming up. We have a Dark Side of the Ring episode this week, all tons of news, notes, tidbits, and just a lot of fun shit to talk about. What a great weekend we got on Friday and Saturday. Pro wrestling competition is delivering and producing results, as we saw on Friday night with a pretty good Smackdown and a really interesting Rampage with an hour-long buy-in on YouTube. Prior to that, companies doing things in response to one another, Top Dolla and the Bucks, little sneaker beef, Roman Reigns shooting on CM Punk, Tony Khan shooting on everything. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. So we're going to get into a lot of the competition talk and what that is producing so far. And then we'll start rolling into results and things like that. So let me just give you a quick rundown of the menu for today. And then we'll get into what you're going to see this week. Shout out the patrons, that sort of shit. And we'll get into stuff. Like I said, we're going to open up things with competition talk. We're going to talk about Roman Reigns' comments on CM Punk. We're going to talk about Top Dolla and the Bucks sneaker trash talk. We'll talk about Tony Khan. We'll defend referee Aubrey Edwards and Bryce Remsburg. And then we'll talk about No TLC. We'll talk about Buddy Matthews and Braun Strowman news, Lacey Evans news, full review of Luna Vachon on Dark Side of the Ring. We'll talk about Friday Night Smackdown and Friday Night's Rampage, along with the buy-in, which was headlined by Minoru Suzuki and fucking Bryan Danielson, which is insane. Smackdown had a great match between Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, and a great King of the Ring match with Finn Balor and Sami Zayn. And then, of course, last night on Dynamite, we got Danielson and Bobby Fish. We got all sorts of crazy shit on that show as well, including a title switch last night. There's just tons of stuff to get into. Plus, we have to preview Crown Jewel, talk about what's going on there, possibly a little Full Gear stuff, and just a lot of chatter, a lot of chit-chat, a lot of hanging out with you guys and see what you guys have to say in the chat and that sort of thing. So that's what we're going to be getting into tonight. But before we do that, here's what you're going to see this week. Like I mentioned earlier, there is no watch-along tonight or next week due to Dynamite being on Saturday, so we're going to be up here the next 2 Sundays doing the podcast. Tomorrow night, immediately following Raw, we'll be up here live to do a full Raw review, and tomorrow is where we're going to knock out Crown Jewel predictions. So we'll knock all of that out tomorrow night. After Raw, we will detail and chronicle the entire Crown Jewel card, and I will offer my predictions for everything. So that will be tomorrow. Keep an eye out for that. Then Thursday, I'm going to be up here for a Crown Jewel review, although I'm not quite sure what time that's going to be. I'm going to be off on Thursday to watch the pay-per-view. However, the pay-per-view starts for me at 9 a.m. So I'm not sure if I'll catch the beginning of it or not, or if I'll go backtrack and watch a little bit later. I don't know, but probably sometime in the afternoon Pacific time is when I'm going to come up here to do a Crown Jewel review on Thursday. But I'll have a exact time nailed down a little bit closer to that. So just make sure you're subscribed and follow me on Twitter and all that shit. Then, of course, on Sunday, we'll be back here with the Winged Eagle for next week, where we'll talk about all the wrestling results and news and things like that. We'll do another watch-along on Halloween night on the 31st, and we'll have some mic drops sprinkled in throughout the week, I'm sure. So it's a big week here on the channel, all sorts of stuff to go down. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a really fun week, I think. I also want to shout out our patrons before I go say hi to the chat and answer these super chats that are waiting, and then we are going to open up with Roman Reigns. Shoot comments on a match with CM Punk. Interesting shit. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers on Patreon, and I logged myself out somehow. Whoops. All right, let me go to log in. There we go. Sexy Greg at goodmicwork@gmail.com. Okay, there we go. Relationship manager. This is where I manage all my relationships with you guys. Anyway, I want to thank all of the current subscribers on the Patreon page: Jordan Hendricker and Divine Ricks, JJ Legg, Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Deshaun Robinson, J Smooth 99, Martin Can, Alex Dredge, Apron Bump Podcast, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dog's Kennel, Ryan Y, Devlin Husband, John Redifer, Claudio Klabadetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Barry MK, Josiah Blevins, Scott Moss, Domanian, Ewell, John Riffle, Michael Kumo, Naveed, Keith Salyers, Blake Moran. As always, guys, thank you for everything. I also owe some hellos and pleasantries to people in the chat. I am glad that I was able to come up here after the Cowboys-Patriots overtime game, which the Cowboys just won 35-29. And thank you to everybody who's watching me. I think the night game tonight is Seattle and Pittsburgh. So, some of you might have interest in that. Some of you might not. I believe there's also a playoff baseball game on as well. Is there not? Probably is. So I know this is not ideal time to have a podcast, but like I said, blame AEW because it's really the only time I could do it. I didn't want to come up here today in the middle of the afternoon when all the football games are going on. You know what I mean? But I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed all of that fun this afternoon and had a good Sunday before joining us tonight on the podcast. Good to see you, Charlie. Tatanani is back, and Jay Lambo. We got Lil Justin, Jet the Hawk, Big J, Mixed Partial Farts is here. We got Nate, David Brown. I'm glad you're back and hope you are feeling better. Sore throats are never fun. I hate them. Jonathan, Lyman Brand, good to see you. We've got Cobro in the house. We got Ben Espinoza, George Morris. Thank you very much, dude, for the $5. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? Halloween Kills was not bad, but at least I watched it on Peacock. Are you going to watch it? Crown Jewel looks horrible. I think on paper, Crown Jewel doesn't look that bad. I just fucking hate these Saudi Arabia shows, and I really hate to disappoint you guys. I wish I knew more about this stuff so I could interact on social media with so many of you. I scroll through Twitter, and all I see is Halloween Kills, Halloween Kills, Halloween Kills. I don't even know what the fuck Halloween Kills is. I'm assuming this is a sequel to the Halloween movie, but I never saw any of those. That's Jamie Lee Curtis, right? Like in the 70s, and they've done a million different renditions. I'm just not a horror movie guy. It's not my favorite genre. I know a lot of people, a lot of wrestling fans are huge horror movie fans. For some reason, I'm just not. It's not that I dislike the movies. I just don't care about them or something. I never saw, as a kid, I probably saw some Friday the 13th, or what's the Edward Scissorhands guy, Freddy Krueger. I've seen those as a kid, but I certainly couldn't tell you any sort of timeline or what the fuck happens or the characters or anything like that. So I suck. I haven't even thought about glancing at whatever the hell this Undertaker special is on Netflix either. I should watch that, but that's not really my jam, so I just don't. So I apologize for not having any fucking knowledge when it comes to horror movies or video games. I am an illiterate bag of shit when it comes to that stuff. JL, good to see you. Black Mask, good to see you as well. Sonic Plays, I'm not sure if I got you yet. Alex Dredge, thank you for the super chat. Hi, Greg. Sorry it's not too much. Hope you're well, dude. You don't have to do anything. Just be here. Give me your eyeballs. Give me your like. And give me your subscription. That's all I want out of any of you. Everything else is just extra. It's just bonus. And I appreciate you guys always. Chris Ludecki is here. Thanks, dude, for the $10. I love Roman Reigns trash talk and people who say Punk would kill Roman in a real fight. As someone who trained jiu-jitsu for years, I think Punk skill is trash and Roman would own him. Punk has a little bit of training, but Roman, like we're going to talk about here in a second, Roman is an athlete. Roman is a former football player. He is a legitimate athlete. CM Punk has never really been able to display much athleticism, and as Roman said in his comments, not an explosive bone in his body. Plus, Roman is twice his size. I kind of agree with you, Chris, on that one. Oh yeah, that's right. It's a Dodgers game now. They won the blow-off with the Giants the other night. We had that game on the TV in my bar, and people were going nuts for that. It was fun. Okay, it's a sequel to the 2018 remake. Interesting. Okay. Cool. Okay, yeah, so sorry I don't have more to offer and more to elaborate on in terms of, like the Halloween Kills movies. I just don't know anything about that stuff. But what I do know about is wrestling, and that's what we're here to talk about this evening. And we're going to open up here with some fun stuff first. figured we'd open up on kind of a lighthearted type of topic here because this is all fun trash talk. We're not going to get into some of the ranting that I was doing last week in terms of the idiotic behavior of a lot of wrestling fans and the picking sides and the stupid nonsense that just goes on in general there. This, I think, is going to be fun because we got some trash talking on both sides. And like we saw this weekend, wrestling competition is producing results. We are seeing real-time things happen. Companies, pro wrestling companies here in the States, reacting to one another, making decisions, booking shows, doing things in a direct response to the other company. That's what competition is. About a week ago, I was having an argument with somebody that these two companies are not competition to each other. Yes, they fucking are. They are two professional wrestling companies. They absolutely are. It's absolutely insane to think otherwise. They're competition. They're proving it by reacting to one another. You know, AEW Rampage is now head-to-head with Smackdown. Smackdown's a supersized Smackdown, an extra 30 minutes, so AEW adds buy-in, and then WWE goes commercial-free, then AEW goes commercial-free. This is what we want. You know, this is pushing both of these companies, pushing each other to do better. We, the fans, benefit from this. This is such a simple thing to understand, and yet it still causes so much division and arguing amongst the wrestling fans. I just think it's fucking silly. You know, it's being proven to us right now what competition can do to wrestling, because if there was no AEW, you know, think about how bad some of the shows were, you know, in WWE, you know, just in the last year or so. Do you think they'd really be bending over backwards to give us anything more? No, they've got no competition. They got nothing else to worry about. They're the WWE, and they can literally phone their shit in and do just fine. Those days are over. No more phoning in shit now, because if you do, the numbers are going to reflect that. And, you know, some of those Dynamite and Raw ratings are not that far off. You're only talking 500,000 viewers or less here. You know, that's pretty incredible. So we got that to talk about first. Like I said, Rampage and SmackDown on Friday, I thought both were really good. Now, SmackDown had a lot of your typical WWE stuff, a lot of that repetitive, just redundant nonsense, pointless promos, you know, predictable shit or whatever, but it did have some pretty good matches in there. We had a great Finn Balor and Sami Zayn match, a great Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks match, and a really fun contract signing with Roman Reigns and Brock, you know, a WrestleMania-sized pay-per-view main event they did a contract signing here for. So SmackDown did what they were supposed to do, and I don't think the numbers are really out yet other than some preliminary numbers. And I said right here on this podcast last week, or actually on Monday, I think, I was like, I'm predicting right now that SmackDown is going to do a better number than Rampage. And that's, to me, not really in question. I think what Rampage is trying to do is draw a comparable number. Now, the YouTube channel that had the buy-in, I think that's close to about 1 million views on that now. During the Bryan Danielson and Suzuki match, I think they peaked at 92, 93,000, something like that. Just scratched the surface of 100K in, you know, concurrent viewers or whatever. So that was pretty good, I suppose, and they gave us a match for free on the fucking internet. A dream match, really, with Danielson and Suzuki that turned out to be 10 times more fun than I thought it would be. I just thought it was going to be cool to see them in the ring together, trading a couple of chops. I had no idea it was actually going to be a fun match, and I actually saw Match of the Year candidate tossed around. Not sure if I'd go that far, but the fact that I saw others going that far tells you a lot about Danielson and what a different wrestler he is now that he's in AEW. And he worked the very next night, last night, against Bobby Fish in the main event. So it's good to see him hitting the ground running in AEW. He is getting his matches in, and he is balls to the wall. And it's fun to see. You love to see it, you know what I mean? So anyway, aside from the Friday stuff that we're going to get into later on, there was also some other fun kind of trash talk on both sides. Now, the first one was an interesting one. It was an interview that Roman Reigns did with Complex Sports. Now, I'm not going to give you any any transcript here of the quote. I'm basically going to paraphrase some of the things he said. Now, he was commenting on AEW, talking about their momentum, their success, and why they have had some of the success that they've had. And I don't take issue with anything Roman Reigns said in this interview. He was just saying what he should. Now, I saw a lot of people attacking him for this. You have to understand where he works. He works in WWE. What's he going to say? Oh, yeah, we are a little bit worried about them. They're doing a lot of things right, and we got to get our act together, or we're going to be in trouble. You really think he's going to say that? The company man, the Universal Champion? No, he's going to say, he's going to talk the company up, and he did just that, and he did a great job of that. And when talking about AEW, one of the things that I found silly that he said, but I can understand why he said it, was when he was discussing how, the fan reaction to them, and says that they're kind of the cool kids in town because they're new and they tend to be babied by the fans, which I think is all just a poor excuse for AEW is doing a lot of things right, and you don't want to admit it, is really all he said there. But I still didn't take issue with it because these are things I would expect Roman Reigns to say. In AEW, I would expect people to twist and bend things to make it look better for them when they're talking about WWE. It's the same thing. You're going to see that on both sides. Neither company is wrong for doing it. Roman didn't say anything that was out of line here. I didn't agree with everything he said, but he kept everything, as rational as he possibly could, even though that right there is a ridiculous notion that the fans, and that's another notion that I see a lot on social media. There are people out there that have such an issue with AEW and such an issue that fans like AEW that they claim that there's people and podcasters that pretend to like AEW so they don't have to endure the wrath of the AEW crazies, as if the AEW crazies are any worse than the WWE crazies. And you don't have to look any further than the tweets that Tony Khan made last week to see how truly unstable those fans are. They're crazy on both sides. To pretend one's more nuts than the other is fucking stupid. So for podcasters to pretend, for me to pretend, I love all you guys, but I got news for you. I ain't fucking scared of any stupid fucking fan attacking me for something that I choose to enjoy. Fuck you. And I'm certainly not going to pretend to like something so I don't have to endure their wrath. I'm not scared of their wrath. Fuck them. What are they going to do to me? Troll me? I don't give a shit. That's what the block button is for. That would not be enough of a reason for me to pretend to be a fan of something. And this is where it's gotten. This is where the delusion has gotten. You have fans that are so anti-AEW that they believe that the fans that do like AEW are pretending. What a place. So anywho, that seems like it's in the same type of neighborhood of what Roman Reigns was kind of discussing here. But the juiciest part of this interview was when he was asked about a potential match with CM Punk. And this is where I loved what Roman Reigns said. The earlier stuff I didn't quite agree with, but I understood it. This fucking had me cracking up. So he does not pull any punches here. Roman Reigns is just basically no F's given. I loved it. He said, like I said, I'm going to paraphrase here. I'm not quoting exact. But he basically said that a match with CM Punk wouldn't elevate him. He goes, I'm already the fucking man. What's a match with CM Punk against me gonna do? CM Punk is older, he's slower, and according to Roman Reigns, he feels like he's lost a step. I think CM Punk looks great in the ring right now, especially for the age he is and for the time he's taken off. But CM Punk has never really been a terribly athletic guy. Nobody has really ever talked about how great an athletic CM Punk is. He's had some great matches, especially in his early career in the Ring of Honor days and some of his WWE stuff. But in terms of being like a general, like somebody like Danielson, no, he's not. Even on the CM Punk documentary, one of his trainers said that he had lead in his ass. And that is kind of the way CM Punk moved around the ring a little bit, like he had lead in his ass. And Roman says this. He said he's older, he's slower, he's lost a step, and he got his ass whooped in the UFC. And a guy 200 pounds soaking wet without an explosive bone in his body isn't going to do anything to me, which I love that. That fucking cracked me up. He said that he's a real athlete, he's bigger, he's stronger, and he'd fuck him up. He'd whoop anyone in AEW's ass like their little brothers. So I thought that was great. This is exactly the type of trash talk I want to see. When Kenny Omega does an interview, I want him to talk about how vastly superior he is in the ring to everyone else, and let Roman say this stuff here. This is good shit. And as I had pointed out last week when we were kind of talking about this stuff, the fans that let this stuff bother them, I don't think they were hugged or loved or something as a kid, because this is so fucking fun. Do you not think for one second that if social media or Twitter existed in the 90s, that these drug-addicted, pilled-up maniac wrestlers wouldn't be talking mad shit to each other? Oh my God, could you imagine some of the tweets, the pill driven tweets that would be sent out amongst the boys. Some of it would be in a lighthearted trash talking sense. Some of it could be legit shooting. I think it could get real ugly real quick. So if anything, today's generation is so much more PG than what you would have read back in the day, especially prior to a lot of the changes in society and the cancel culture and things like that. Certain words that were a little bit more acceptable to say, so to speak. Back in the 90s, I think you can think of the words I'm talking about. They start with R and F and N, you know? And back then, I think it would have been so incredibly offensive. And if any of these tweets got saved, and we're reading them then 30 years later, you would say, holy shit. So the fact that we have a little bit of playful trash talk here to where nobody's going over the top, nobody's got a drug-fueled Twitter tirade where they're talking about fucking another wrestler's wife or something like that, or smacking around their kids. This is playful jabs, trash talk, towing your company line, whatever you want to call it. This is the type of stuff I would expect from anybody on either side. So Roman Reigns, Top Dolla, and the Young Bucks and Tony Khan, I don't have one single solitary issue with one word that any of them said at all. And all I saw this week was a lot of fans, you know, if you're anti-AEW, you're jumping on Tony Khan and the Bucks. If you're anti-WWE, you're jumping on Roman and Top Dolla. I think people should just jump off all these guys' dicks and just start having fun for once in their pathetic fucking lives. This is awesome. This is awesome. Let's enjoy it. Stop being weird. Speaking of being weird, Top Dolla sent out a very weird tweet the other day that sparked a little bit more fun trash talk between himself and the Young Bucks. Now, he didn't call out the Young Bucks by name, but here's what he tweeted. I just found it odd. He says, some of y'all favorite wrestlers only wear sneakers on camera to seem cool and hip, but in real life, they rock Vans and Asics exclusively. But y'all not ready for that conversation. What? Well, I rock Vans. That's all I fucking wear, and I'm cool and hip as fuck. If there was a hip Hall of Fame, I'd be in that shit, man. Right on the top. Me, Greg Morgan. But he thinks that Vans aren't cool. I think they are. And he says that the wrestlers are just wearing them on camera. But that's so weird to me because that still means they bought them. You know, it's not like they're fake sneakers or whatever. I'm, again, like I said, with the Halloween kills, like I said, with video games and horror movies, to add to that list of illiteracy that I have, sneakers. I don't know or give a shit about sneakers. I haven't bought a pair, and actually I do have a pair of Nikes for running, but they're not Jordans or anything. They're just fucking Nikes. Everything else, I just wear Vans, and I've never cared at all about expensive shoes. The only time that expensive shoes ever mattered to me in my life was in 7th grade, and 6th grade, and 8th grade. Though that's a very weird order to say those grades. How about 6th, 7th, and 8th? Basically, middle school is where I remember it being very important for you to wear decent shoes. If you showed up with some Kmart kickers or something to school, you were going to get your Kmart ass kicked is what was going to happen. And I actually had Reebok pumps, like the very first ones, the high tops with the fucking basketball thing. And there was this scam going around school making the rounds. People were saying, look, if you wear your pumps for a while, tear off the little basketball thing, the pump thing off the front, and you can take the sneakers back and get a new pair. So all the kids were buying Reebok pumps, or the ones who could afford them, were buying Reebok pumps, wearing them for a little while, and then taking them back to the store and replacing them. I even did it. I got myself a fresh pair, new color and everything. I went from black to white. And I got a second pair of pumps because I went in on this scam. I forgot where I got them. Maybe might have been JCPenney or something. Wherever it fucking was, the mall is where I went to get them. And everybody was doing it. It was pretty funny. So anyway, that was the last time in my personal life that wearing expensive sneakers or having expensive sneakers mattered. It's like Shawshank. How often do you look at another man's shoes? Never. I am never looking down to see what any man anywhere ever is wearing. Don't give a fuck. So I don't understand why sneakers are such a I guess because I'm an old, crotchety old man and this shit just doesn't matter. But even when I was a young, vibrant stud, this shit still didn't matter to me. And I don't understand why anybody would buy a $2,500 pair of shoes. I bought a $500 litter box last week. So, I guess I shouldn't, criticize stupid spending. But That seems really weird to me, and it's just not anything that I'm into and I understand. And if somebody is wearing a $3,000 pair of shoes and they're standing right in front of me, I would have no idea. They could be wearing a pair of fucking flip-flops for all I care. So just don't get it, just don't know. Now, the Bucks responded to this in bio form a couple of times, talking about their sneakers and whatnot. And what I like about this is that, Top Dolla using this as a reason to attack the competition is kind of weird, but I also think it's playful trash talk. Now, Top Dolla is just an NXT guy, but he is a former NFL player, so he probably does have some money. The Bucks really like to brag about the money they've made in wrestling, so I guess it's just a little pissing contest between who can waste more money on shoes. I like it. It's fun. No reason to be upset at anybody about this. Top Dolla's tweet was weird and pointless, but nothing that upset me, and I want him to keep doing it. Keep giving him shit, because Top Dolla is the size of both of those Bucks combined. So I guess if they ever got into a shoot, then the Bucks would be in some trouble. But I like that. I want to see the Bucks respond. I want to see Top Dolla respond. Top Dolla is about to be on Smackdown here shortly with Hit Row. That should be fun, and I like this type of stuff. Like I said, you have to remember, none of this is over the top. And whenever you start, if you find yourself getting upset or getting your panties in a bunch about any sort of competitive tweet you see between the companies or between stars in the company, just remember how much worse it could really be. If you want to start throwing out the words like unprofessional or obsessed or concentrate on your own product, just think about what it would have been like if this shit was around in 1997. I rest my case. So why don't you give these guys a break, let them have some fun, and stop being a little bitch. And of course, Tony Khan, lots of talking this week. He was talking trash about the Rampage stuff, which we mentioned on the last podcast when he actually called out WWE. I'm so excited to go head-to-head with you so I can beat you. And I was the one that was like, Tony, I appreciate the the enthusiasm, but even with SmackDown going to FS1, I don't think Rampage is going to draw a better number than them. And whenever that official number does come out, probably tomorrow, it will prove that. But I appreciate him, really wanting to make noise, make a splash, get his company noticed. And him doing this stuff is not overly obsessive. He seems to be super dialed in to his own product. For people who say, you're taking your eye off the ball. No, he isn't. He's got a third eye then, because he's doing just fine. It's okay. It doesn't take time away from your creative process to take 15 seconds to send out a tweet. It's not like that. The fact that he's been able to book their shows with a lot of forward planning. We hear the cards and see the cards for the following week's Rampage and Dynamite, most cases a full week in advance. They really, really do have their act together a lot in terms of that stuff. So if they are out there talking a little bit of trash, let them. It's fun. It will not get to the point of being obsessive. They haven't shown that to me, because I lived through WCW and I lived through TNA and I lived through ECW, the three most obsessive fucking companies I've ever seen in my life. Nobody will ever touch the three of them. So there's nothing that AEW can do that's going to prove to me that they are too up the ass of WWE. No way. And speaking of obsessive, let's talk more about some of the silly little arguments that fans can convince themselves of believing whenever they want to get into these debates of trying to tear down the other company. Now, if you're anti-WWE, you're going to complain about all of the things that you have a legitimate right to complain about that are stupid, but then you're going to complain about shit that's really not a problem at all. And one of the things I see on the other side with the anti-AEW crowd is some of the chatter I saw over the weekend on Twitter that I think was sparked by a tweet by David Bixenspan, where he was defending referee Aubrey Edwards and referee Bryce Remsburg. Now, this has come up before. When Aubrey Edwards first started refereeing in AEW, a lot of people were criticizing her referee style. I thought she was great. She was very reactionary to everything she saw. She was immersed in the moment, and I loved everything that she did, because some of my favorite referees ever did that. And all of a sudden, you see fans saying, boy, she's really taking away from the action, boy, and trying to act as if she's not refereeing properly. I'm like, have you ever fucking watched wrestling before? Have you watched wrestling the past 30 years? You are aware that wrestling is theater. This is not a legitimate combat sport. Everybody here is playing a role, including the referee. If anything, I don't like the way the referees have almost been diminished in WWE. They don't refer to them really by name anymore. They've kind of become invisible. Where back in the day, you know, Kyoto and Doan and Earl Hebner and Jimmy Corderas and Timmy White, those guys were a big part of the matches a lot of times. And you're seeing that now in AEW. They're kind of developing a referee class similar to WCW when they had Nick Patrick and Pee Wee Anderson and Mark Curtis, a.k.a. Brian Hildebrand, Mickey J, and guys like that. I like that AEW is referring to the referees by name, introducing them prior to the match, and that Aubrey has been the ref for a lot of big matches, and her and Bryce both have been consistently requested by wrestlers. Some wrestlers, 10, 20, even 30 years in the biz, have been requesting her to referee their matches, yet some asshole sitting on his fucking ass who hasn't performed an athletic move since 8th grade is going to sit there and criticize her ref style? Why? Because you don't like AEW and you're trying to make up bullshit reasons in your head why she's doing things improperly? Jesus Christ, man. I just mentioned a referee a minute ago, Mark Curtis. Brian Hildebrand was his real name, refereed under Mark Curtis in WCW. One of the most beloved referees in history. Tragically died of cancer couple decades ago now. They've consistently ran tribute shows to him, and he was loved by some of the greats like Mick Foley and Chris Jericho, Jim Cornette. Loved Brian Hildebrand. Go and watch Brian Hildebrand ref a match and watch how fucking animated he is. And he is just moving around to everything. When wrestlers are exchanging blows, he's punching the air. He's jumping over people. He is reacting, watching, throwing his hands up in the air. He is extremely active. And this is a guy that's well beloved, considered one of the greatest referees of all time, and is extremely respected and just a beloved overall figure in wrestling. So why is it okay for him to do it, but all of a sudden Aubrey Edwards isn't doing it properly? I'll tell you why. Because you're making this shit up in your head. And Bryce Remsburg is the same way. He's got a lot of that. You can notice him in the match, basically. But I don't have a problem with that. You know, the referees shouldn't be invisible. The referees should react to what's going on in there. And when you think about the Earl Hebners, who used to have fucking physical pushing matches with Triple H, who used to drink beer with Austin, like I said, Hildebrand would be jumping all over the fucking place. You've had a lot of extremely... And Charles Robinson is another example. He's a guy that's very, very active in the ring. He's not just standing there like a moron. He's doing shit. He's reffing the match and he's reacting. And these type of referees really, honestly, throughout history have been my favorite ones. And you've got fans criticizing Aubrey for doing what? Nothing different than many, many, many referees who came before her. It's the same thing that we were talking about last week with the fans who are complaining about AEW taking shots at WWE. I'm like, why is it okay for every promotion in history ever to do it, but all of a sudden now it's against the rules? Do you know how stupid that sounds? Do you hear yourselves? That's the type of logic I think that's out there with a lot of this stuff. And I'm like, when I was reading that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a point in the podcast this week to defend Aubrey Edwards and to defend any referee like that. I do not feel at all that she takes away from the match. And she has wrestlers in the company, well-respected people, requesting her to be their personal referee. Yet the fans have some issue with this. God damn. Are you sure it's just not an I don't like AEW thing? Or maybe you don't even like women referees. Whatever it is, I've never seen any sort of negativity at all with Aubrey and her ref style or Bryce or anybody else really in AEW at all. That referees are not something I'm ever going to take issue with. And if anything, I like the fact that AEW's referees have names, have personalities. You actually know who the fucking referee is. Whenever I watch a Smackdown match or a Raw match or a WWE match in general, the ref's invisible. I have tuned them out because that's what WWE has programmed me to do. Back in the day, I paid attention. It was Tim White or Corderas or Earl Hebner or whatever. Now it's like, shit, I can watch an entire match and not even know who the referee was. No fucking clue. And now we got a couple of women. We got Jessica and we got the other one who are around reffing and doing a good job, and I still don't even notice them. The fact that there's a female in the ring reffing the match, I don't notice it because I've just been able to just zone out of them or whatever. So it's nice to kind of have that matter again in AEW, and during, big championship matches or most entrances, I believe Justin Roberts says who the referee is going to be. I like all that. I don't have any issue at all with any of the referee and shit going on in AEW, and I found it to be a really silly complaint from people who just think they know what they're talking about, and they don't. And that's unfortunately what's so common in wrestling, is that there are so many people that believe they are experts and they don't know dick. And it's embarrassingly bad when you have somebody trying to make an educated point and they just sound like a fucking idiot. So anyway, I found that to be ludicrous. Leave Aubrey and Bryce alone. They're both better at doing this than you would ever be. And I think they do great. More good news. We got some excellent news coming out of WWE. According to Dave Meltzer, WWE is scrapping TLC this year in December. Thank God. Do we even need it? Fuck TLC. Fuck Hell in the Cell. Fuck any of these stupid gimmick pay-per-views. They're so bad. They're so watered down. And they're such a waste of time. And it is wear and tear on wrestlers' bodies that they don't need. And it's just a terrible fucking pay-per-view. Do away with December pay-per-views altogether. I've always pitched for a December off season in wrestling. 1 month, nurse your nagging injuries, spend time with your family for the holidays, come back January 1st, ready to rock. We know that's unrealistic. That's never going to happen, but maybe it's possible here that the talent can get a little bit of extra time off during the holidays this year if there is no pay-per-view to worry about or whatnot. Now, apparently the reason for them dropping TLC, number one, is due to that January 1st show that they have planned in Atlanta. That's going to be the New Year's Day show. So if that is going to be a big pay-per-view show with a lot on the card, TLC would really be in the way. And it surprises me that WWE even considered scrapping this pay-per-view, because we have seen them do pay-per-views like the very next week, have we not? Wasn't it like last year or something we had a pay-per-view the very next Sunday after the one before or something? Sometimes it's as close as 2 weeks. So the fact that they actually made this decision is kind of a smart one. So way to go, WWE. You shouldn't have a December pay-per-view, and now you're not. Hopefully they will make that a permanent thing. Maybe the January 1st, maybe the New Year's Day show is going to be a thing going forward, and so maybe TLC will be a thing of the past. And, this is a conversation that I think is at least worth bringing up, or at least worth having, based on how we see WWE's pay-per-view schedule versus AEW's pay-per-view schedule. Back in the day, back in the 90s, the wrestling companies used to react to each other in terms of the pay-per-views. I think WWE upped it, then WCW upped it, then WWE upped it, then WCW upped it again, and WWE upped it again. It could actually go in reverse here. We might actually see WWE, this is what I'd like to see anyway, I'd like to see them reduce the amount of pay-per-views. Because if you notice what AEW is doing, I don't know how many they have this year. I'd have to think. Somebody hit me with it in the chat. Feels like they have, about 6, 7 pay-per-views throughout the year. So, oh, Jesus. I'm sorry. Let me just delete these. Jesus, what the hell? I'm sorry about these. Let me just report these. Somebody actually, what a loser. Somebody actually paid 99 cents in a super chat to tweet out, to super chat out offensive shit. All right, well, they've all been reported. Let me just get rid of those. Man. Pardon my pause here, guys. All right, I think we get that one out of here. All right. There we go. Okay. Okay, so you're right, Black Mask. You're what I'm thinking, like 6, like every other month, right, on the pay-per-views. So yeah, we'll get back to my comment here in a minute. Sorry, I didn't scroll down to the chat and see anything for a while. I want to say hi to you, Watt M8. Thank you for the $5, dude, because you're just repeating what I said. 96 through 99 wrestling Twitter would have been so toxic as hell. it would have been. Just think about it for a minute. Think of the players involved. Think of the personalities who weren't dead yet that would have been there. Think about what Brian Pillman's Twitter would have looked like, Holy shit. So it would have been a crazy time, and it would have been a hell of a lot worse in terms of the dark side of it, kind of the ugliness, the malicious attacking, that sort of thing. I think it might have even been worse back in the day. So this is all pretty much harmless stuff for the most part. No, JCS, I did not know that AEW would be live on the West Coast on October 27th. Aware. I wasn't aware of that either. Was not aware of that. Has 4 pay-per-views a year. Okay. I thought it was like 6. Yeah. So anyway, this is the point I wanted to make here about what we have to, what I wanted to discuss in terms of the pay-per-views. When you see WWE, they're kind of dropping shows, and they have these pay-per-views that have become so watered down. A lot of times they're just in the way. How many times have you heard me complain about that? About Hell in the Cell specifically. This is a pay-per-view that's just in the way. There's no reason for it to be there. You need to save Hell in the Cell matches for your big programs that call for it and just stick the cell on any random pay-per-view. These theme pay-per-views are doing a lot, I think, to hurt the product, and they're pointless. And a lot of these pay-per-views are just kind of throwaway pay-per-views a lot. The big ones are awesome. The Rumbles, the Manias, the SummerSlams, the Survivor Series, those are all great. And when you think about now, you don't even really have pay-per-view buys to worry about anymore. This shit is all done on Peacock or whatnot. So I feel like now WWE should at least think about and entertain the idea of reducing the amount of pay-per-views they have and start booking more themed type TV shows like AEW does. How they have the Fighter Fests and the Winter is Comings and all of these kind of themed TV shows that set up big pay-per-view quality matches, title matches, and a lot of times are basically just a pay-per-view on TV, the way the Clash of Champions used to be or whatnot. And with WWE's television, it's so ridiculously repetitive. They just go through the same shit every week, this just formulaic nonsense where much of it is all the same. You can even tell and sense when commercial breaks are coming, just in terms of how the shows are formatted, they're structured. You can basically sleep through them and still know what happens. They're no fun in a lot of occasions and stuff, and I think WWE would benefit a lot, especially now in terms of television ratings and things like that, is if they reduced the amount of pay-per-views and just did a few more pay-per-view quality Monday Night Raws and Smackdowns, where they build them up and give them a name and make big-time matches for those networks. That would make USA and Fox very happy. What would you be losing by doing this? You're not contractually obligated to put on a certain amount of pay-per-views by Peacock, so what the fuck is the difference? If you did a little bit less on pay-per-view and a little bit more on TV, how much revenue would you really be losing if you changed it up and did it that way? And I think they should at least consider that, because AEW has shown success with that stuff. Less pay-per-views means bigger TV matches, and we've been getting that all year long, basically since AEW's existence. The only time we get a big match on Raw is when they're trying to spark a rating or trying to fix something. Like when we get a random title change or whatnot, which I think we got a couple of didn't we get 2 WWE title changes on Raw this year? That's a fucking lot for modern times. So, doing more of that, but, if they did that, that would require WWE to do a little bit more planning. And as we know, they suck at planning. So I don't know how that would work, but I think it would benefit them greatly to do less pay-per-views. If we could go back to the big 4 or the big 5, keep Money in the Bank. Keep Money in the Bank. Do Rumble, Mania, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. You know what? That I'm even willing to admit that might be too little. Maybe add 2 more pay-per-views somewhere. I don't want to see one between Rumble and Mania. Would love for those to stay completely apart. But you can stick one more in there somewhere, maybe between August and between SummerSlam and Survivor Series. Give us an October pay-per-view. Fine. Give us 6. And then throughout the course of the year, give us like 5 special Raws and 5 special Smackdowns with big things happening. Give us some title changes. Give us some blow-off matches. Give us some pay-per-view quality showdowns on those shows. I think that would do wonders for WWE's television ratings, and it would make it would help, the fans actually give a shit about tuning in to Raw. You think I'm excited to watch Raw tomorrow? Did you see what they have booked for tomorrow's Raw? Jesus, man, they're doing Big E and Drew McIntyre again against the Dirty Dogs. And WWE's tweet they sent out, can they coexist? No, because they didn't coexist last week when you tried to make them coexist. What is it with this coexist shit? And why is it that every time two baby faces are scheduled for an upcoming title match, they always, without fail, have to team up to take on heels on TV? Every fucking time. Under the, description of can they coexist, or under the question of can they coexist. I don't give a shit if they can coexist. Who cares? Who cares? And so you did it not once, not twice, but 3 times now, 3 weeks in a row. That's the only way they've chosen to build Big E and Drew McIntyre, is to have them team together 3 weeks in a row prior to Crown Jewel. That's it. That's stupid. So I just don't think that they're capable of really doing what I'm proposing here, but I'd like to see it happen. It would be nice. Anywho, what's next on my agenda, on my notes? We've got Buddy Matthews heading to New Japan Strong. That's kind of cool. They ran a trailer at their show last night in Philadelphia, hyping his debut on November 13th, San Jose. So Buddy Matthews will be heading to New Japan Strong. He is going to be sticking around here in the States, hopefully. So hopefully he can turn up in AEW. Would love to see him there. A lot of us thought he could be the Joker in that Casino ladder match. Of course, that turned out to be Hangman, but if Matthews is able to come in and have some matches with Jesus Christ, with Cole and with Kenny and Danielson, my God, good stuff. Hopefully we will see him come in soon. Speaking of people moving around, we could see Braun Strowman in Impact. Apparently he met with Impact officials yesterday. There have been a lot of talks and reports of him talking to them over the last probably 6 weeks. And now that he's actually meeting with them, good to see him there. It's going to be odd to see Strowman in Impact. I mean, Impact is I just view it as such a small little company with hardly any audience there. He's so overgrown, Braun Strowman. It's just going to be hard to think of him anywhere outside of a WWE type of environment. But he could turn up in Impact, and if that happens, I think that could bridge him doing an appearance in AEW. So in terms of Strowman going to Impact, sure. Why not? Like, people are like, oh, I don't know if that's a good fit. Well, he won't do anything in WWE, and a lot of people have been worried about the idea of him going to AEW. So go somewhere else first, get moving a little bit outside of the WWE, and then, go into AEW, because if he does that first, he'll be, he won't be a WWE cast off. He'll be an Impact cast off. So we'll see what happens with Braun in the future. We'll keep our eye on him. We also owe Lacey Evans a congratulations. Gave birth to her second child yesterday. So congrats to Lacey Evans and Ric Flair. Very happy for them. There was I guess she posted on Instagram, basically a photo of the birth. I guess she did one of these home births where she had one of these weird swimming pools in her living room, and her daughter watched the whole thing. It's pretty gnarly. But anyway, congrats to Lacey Evans, mama for the second time, ready to get her back into WWE sometime down the road. The baby is out, and now it's up to Lacey when she comes back, and she might want to get a little bit of input from her baby daddy, Ric Flair. You know what I mean? Before we start getting into some of the results, I want to discuss the Luna Vachon Dark Side of the Ring episode that aired on Thursday. It was one of the ones I was looking forward to because I have a lot of memories of Luna from various time periods in WWE, and I know she had a rough life, and very curious about this particular episode. And I think this only leaves us now with the season finale, which I think is on the steroid trial. So that should be coming up on Thursday. That's going to be good. I'm really ready to review that one. So we're going to get into the Dark Side of the Ring here next. Then we're going to talk about Friday night's Smackdown and Friday night Rampage. And then we will get into and blow through the results of Dynamite from last night. And there was some fun shit going on there. The Eliminator bracket has been revealed, so we'll make our picks for who's going to win that tournament. I think I know who's going to be in the finals, but in terms of who wins it, I still think that's up in the air. And a lot of good wrestling overall last night on Dynamite too. Black and Dante Martin was fucking great, and we had a title change, which was awesome. Great shit all over the place. So anywho, we're going to get into Luna Vachon first. Let me just double check over here on the chat. I want to knock out a couple of other super chats and make sure there's no more dipshits in the chat. My God, what a life these people must have. I'm going to pay a guy so I can say a racial slur. My God, what it must be like to live like that. Chris Miner, thank you for the $5. Just bought my tickets to Dynamite in Orlando for next Saturday. It'll be in the UCF basketball arena. I'm super excited for my first AEW show. That's going to be great, man. I am still, aside from the Jericho Cruise, I'm still yet to attend a Dynamite. So I want to go to one very badly. And apparently somebody said they're heading out here to the West Coast. So I don't think I'll be able to get to that show, but next time they're here, anything big, I'm going. I definitely want to go. And if Double or Nothing, I'm assuming he's going to be in Vegas next year, definitely going to be at that. So good to see you again, Chris. Thank you for being here. Weed Whacking Willie is back with $2, man. Thank you so much, dude. Will Bray Wyatt's debut give AEW a ratings boost? Well, it depends on when that happens. Obviously, yeah, it's going to give it a ratings boost, but I don't know if his debut will give him a ratings boost, because what if his debut is unannounced? You know, what if he just shows up at the end of a Dynamite? You know, nobody's going to know he was doing that, so it's not going to boost the ratings. Maybe the following week will, if they do any sort of, vignette or, hyping up his debut and they set a date on it, then yeah, people might tune in. I don't know. But Bray Wyatt showing up there will be great whenever that happens. Hopefully it will. Oh, that explains. I was just saying, like, what kind of a loser would do this type of stuff. When you write Trump 24, 2024, that explains it. You are the exact type of people that would go around spewing this nonsense and spewing racism because you are a Trump supporter. So you're doing your kind a lot of favors there, basically verifying what everybody always says about you guys. You are the reason so many people hate Trump and the people that view it and follow him and worship him like pathetic pieces of shit, like you clearly are. All right, we're just getting it caught up here. Yep, sorry for losers, but we won't give him any attention. He'll leave. No life. Trump 2024. He won the election. I hate black people. I know. Sad, sad, sad. Well, I take comfort in knowing, what a pathetic, inauthentic piece of shit he probably is. Tweeting in his grandma's basement. I'm just assuming his grandma raised him. Hopefully we got that under control for now. We'll get into what we're going to talk about, and that is Luna Vachon on Dark Side of the Ring. So the latest episode of Dark Side of the Ring aired on Vice Channel on Thursday night, chronicling the sad life and career of Luna Vachon. And now this was an interesting one because Luna has a really interesting career. She was a really interesting personality in wrestling, and one that I remember very well from back in the day. Now, when she had come into WWE, all I knew of her at that point was the magazines. When she showed up at WrestleMania 9, I knew right away who she was, but I'd never really seen her physically moving before. I just seen pictures and knew who Luna was. So when she came in, she was a really interesting kind of character to have there at the time because they didn't really have a women's division. Most of the women there were valets and managers and stuff. So she, tried her best to fit in, and they did a lot of different things with her, pairing her with certain guys so she could get a little bit physical in the ring and whatnot. And I always thought she was just really, really interesting, and the shaved head and the veins drawn on it, interesting look, the voice, everything about Luna was very, very interesting to say the least. And as a kid, or as a teenager, I should say, I was, kind of fascinated with her because there's just nothing like her. There's nothing like her in wrestling. And honestly, you hear the phrase tossed around a lot when it comes to wrestling, when you hear the term before their time. I don't think anybody epitomizes that more than Luna Vachon. She was truly before her time. Imagine her coming around now or, a little bit later on when women's wrestling was a little bit more frequent in WWE. Right after she left, that's when Trish got on the map and things like that. And so if she was able to stick around or come around during that time period, boy, she would have made a great competitor at that time. Imagine a match between her and Lisa Marie or Victoria around that time. Some hardcore match. Remember that match Victoria and Trish had at like a Survivor Series that was just super brutal and gnarly? Imagine Luna being in there. How vicious and evil those girls could get with each other. It would have been great. So she was just eons before her time, unfortunately. But her life was kind of a sad one. And they kind of detailed everything here, including a couple of things I wasn't aware of, a couple of revelations, I should say, that I didn't know, and some more Moolah allegations and accusations as well. So they had a lot of people interviewed for this thing, including her father, Paul Butcher Vachon, also Medusa. They had Mad Maxine, former women's wrestler, Mick Foley, Gangrel, who of course was married to Luna for many years, and Luna's son. I believe his name is Van, and somebody pointed out to me, or I saw on social media somewhere, that he was actually a contestant on Hell's Kitchen. I think is that the one with Gordon Ramsay, that angry British chef or whatever that screams and yells. I think that's the one. He was on a couple of seasons of that, apparently. So I had no idea that was the case, and he did mention culinary school in the documentary. So he has been on TV before, and I was completely unaware of that. So those were some of the names interviewed for this thing. Oh, Jesus. Huh? Let me just do another one. People are actually paying me to be racist on here. That's nice. What a life. Anywho, moving on. They talk about Luna's, well, I guess they talk about Luna's childhood and how she was actually brought into the Vachon family. Now, this is something that I did not know until the documentary. I did not know that she was adopted into the family. I thought she was a legitimate Vachon, but apparently she was not. This is a story that I just never heard, never researched, never learned. And Butcher tells the very graphic story of him hearing a gunshot when he was sleeping one night and didn't think much of it, and the next day he wakes up to a sobbing widow who finds out that her husband had killed himself, and with the widow is a 4-year-old girl who was Luna Vachon. So Paul Vachon, I guess, was there to comfort this mother who just underwent this tragedy, and I guess got with her, and Luna was then adopted into the family. Now, one thing I didn't know, I don't know if the fellow who committed suicide was her father. I don't think it was, but anyway, basically that's how she was brought into the family. Now, she idolized her aunt, who was a wrestler. Of course, we know Butcher Vachon is a wrestler, Mad Dog Vachon, big clan of wrestlers in that family. So bringing in Luna, she was fascinated by the life, and she wanted to be a part of that life. And so she began training with Fabulous Moolah. And this is where they had more Fabulous Moolah accusations, kind of basically hinting that she had pimped out Luna Vachon like she had pimped out so many others, like we heard about in the Moolah Dark Side of the Ring episode. And also with her ridiculous booking fees and the abuse and basically just the overall advantage that was being taken of a lot of these women's wrestlers that she was training, and the same was done to Luna. So she had to get the hell out of there. She did, and when she was working a lot of the territories and stuff, I believe then late 80s, that's where she met David Heath or Gangrel, and he was on this documentary telling a lot of funny stories, and he kind of mentioned how they didn't really like her at first. They didn't really like each other. He thought she was weird or something like that, but as time went by, they became friends, and they became more than friends, and they wound up actually getting married, and they remained together for many, many years. Now, they both, especially her, got hard into drugs. That was detailed here in pretty graphic description, and Gangrel teases that also something might have happened with Luna and a family member. Possibly Vivian, who was like her aunt, apparently, that she idolized. So he kind of mentions and feels like he's almost like about to tell a story about some sort of abuse here, but then they kind of don't mention it again. So it was kind of jolting. I'm like, oh shit, what happened there? And they didn't really follow up on it. So, this just adds to so much of Luna's mental instability. She dealt with mental health issues her entire life and had to exist in a wrestling family and in the wrestling business where there is so much rampant drug use and alcohol abuse and a lot of just bad things going on, places you don't want to be, and just living lifestyles you don't want and need to be living, especially if you're somebody who suffers from mental health issues. And this was becoming more and more apparent as the episode went on, that pro wrestling was just not a good place for her, because it was just loaded with all of these vices and this temptation and a lot of the drug use, which really consumed her life and compounded with the mental issues she had, made her very difficult to deal with, made her temperamental, and put her in a lot of toxic environments. Now, they would go on to talk about her debut in WWE. I think her and Gangrel were both trying to get into the company. She got there first, debuting at, like I said earlier, WrestleMania 9, when she came out and attacked Sherry, who had just recently turned babyface and was now kind of against Shawn Michaels. And Luna, I would think it was the Shawn Tatanka match at Mania. Luna comes out, attacks Sherry, who was at ringside. They even brawl backstage in the medical area. They would have a crazy brawl like the following Monday or maybe a couple of weeks later on Raw, where they battled all over the Manhattan Center. And I remember Sherry got her top ripped off, and she was holding like Macho Man's hat to cover up her boobs, who were really starting to hang out there. I mean, they just tore into each other, and it was I was like, man, Sherry was always so crazy, so animated, so over the top, especially in a managerial role with Savage and stuff. She is now met her match in terms of craziness, but the angle and the feud never really had a chance to get going because Sherry abruptly left the WWE right in the middle of that and headed to WCW. I don't even know why Sherry left, if she let go, if she was released, or if they fired her for drugs or whatnot, but she was gone, and that whole feud basically was stopped in its tracks. And that's when they moved her on to team up with Bam Bam Bigelow. He or she was his main squeeze, and that allowed her to do a couple of tag matches. They did one at WrestleMania 10. She's actually worked a couple of WrestleMania matches, right? I'm pretty sure it was Bam Bam and Luna against Doink and Dink or whatnot, right? So she's been in the ring a couple of times, and the pairing with Bam Bam allowed her to get in the ring a little bit more. Now, one of the other people that was interviewed for this was Medusa. Now, I always thought Medusa and Luna did have heat back in the day, but Medusa spoke very highly of Luna in this documentary, and even told the story of Luna, of her wanting Luna to beat her for the title on a house show. What's the big deal? Just give her the title, and management said no when she wanted to go out there and disobey management and allow Luna to beat her. And she told the story that they got in the ring and Luna kind of backed out at the last minute because she didn't want Medusa to get fired, but she was so touched that Medusa would go that far for her. And as Medusa said here, she goes, I don't give a shit. And I believe the story because back then, clearly, Alundra Blaze did not give a shit. She was in a women's division with no challengers whatsoever, just people they were bringing in for one-offs. There was really no division there, and she was just a year or so away from dropping that fucking title right in the trash can on Nitro. So she did not seem to care at all, and she would have been more than happy to do that favor for Luna Vachon. And that would have been some interesting shit. If they changed the title there without permission, I bet you WWE would just not have acknowledged it. They probably wouldn't even gone through the motions of doing a rematch on the next show to give the title back to Medusa or Alundra Blaze at the time. They probably just would have not acknowledged it. So if that would have happened, it would have been interesting. And I think both women probably would have been let go for that because WWE, it's not like the women's division means anything. Just scrap it. And Luna, back then, they probably would have let her go for something like that. So that was kind of an interesting story. They also talked about how Luna Vachon was the first woman ever in a video game. That was the WWE Raw, or I think it was WWE Raw. They came out on the Sega Genesis, which I have sitting right behind me. It's right back there. And she was in that game. And I think that might have been where some of the heat with Alundra Blaze came from, because Alundra was like, well, fuck, why am I not in the game? But, you know, Luna was paired with Bam Bam, she was on TV more, honestly, than Alundra Blaze was, and she was she was more visible on TV, I think, at that time than Alundra. Maybe that was it, but she wasn't even really totally a wrestler at the time. She was more just hanging out with Bam Bam. So the video game stuff was cool for them to talk about that, and I like that Medusa story about how Medusa wanted to drop the title to her. And then they started, detailing more of her drug issues and even some of her attempted suicides, which her son brought up, which again is just like, God, I didn't know that she was struggling this badly. Yes, obviously she was doing the drugs and whatnot, but, didn't know it was to the point where she was attempting to take her own life. That's really sad. What a life. What a life you must live. All right. Anyway, just want to clean some of that up. So, yeah, the drug issues, the attempted suicides, whatnot, all that was detailed here in a very, very sad way. And, this was all prior to her kind of coming back. She would be gone and then she would come back. Now, she would also work in ECW. I want to say maybe around 95 or 96. Woman actually brought her into ECW, and Luna worked that cage match against Stevie Richards. They showed some clips of that in the documentary, so that was cool for them to talk about her brief little run through and pass through ECW. Also, they got into when she was brought back to WWE, and she was brought back with Goldust. And that was a weird time period in Goldust's career, because late 97, he was doing that stuff with Brian Pillman. Brian Pillman passed away. He split up with Terry, turned heel, started dressing up like dominatrix and with ball gags in his mouth. And he came out dressing like a Christmas tree one week, and he had Luna Vachon with him, and the two of them were fucking nuts. So they were kind of together, and that would take her into her issue and program with Sable. Now, Sable, as we remember, was super over at this time, and she was super hot, and she was going to be at the forefront of everything here, and Luna was really going to be pushed aside. So she talked, they used some audio of what I think is a shoot interview with Luna Vachon. I'm pretty sure I have this shoot in my collection somewhere because I recognize some of what she was saying. But she was basically saying that Sable was going to be getting everything, and everybody hated Sable. She was handed everything just because she was pretty, and Luna recalled a story with Sable where Sable said something to the effect of, "Oh, I don't have to take bumps. I don't have to take bumps. Vince told me I'm going to be champion," which I can believe that Sable would say something like that. And of course, that really upset Luna. And I can understand that. And from a professional perspective, here you are, somebody that's like busted your ass, worked your whole life, trained, and trained some more, paid your dues 10 times over to make it in this business. And this woman gets to come in because she just gets accidentally discovered by Vince when he's trying to sign Mark Marrow. And because Vince is such a disgusting fucking pervert, he can't take his eyes off Sable. He becomes infatuated and just enthralled with her like he does with a lot of women in the company, and just decides to give her everything and pay her $1 million and get her a Playboy deal and put the title on her and make her one of the biggest stars in the company and completely ruin Mark Marrow, the dude you were trying to originally sign. So Sable had heat from everybody, but I can imagine it was pretty strong with Luna Vachon because, Luna was going to be used, to get Sable over at the expense of Luna and whatnot. And they talked about WrestleMania 14. Now, Luna claims that Vince McMahon said to her prior to their WrestleMania 14 match that if he hurts Sable, if she gets one bruise on her, then she is fired. This is where I have to dispute it a little bit, because as much as I know, and we all know that Vince McMahon can be a cutthroat son of a bitch, I really don't believe that he said that to her. I believe that Vince McMahon was infatuated with Sable. I believe that he was completely obsessed with her, totally. but I don't think it was to the point where he's walking around threatening other people not to hurt her. You're having a fucking wrestling match. Sable better get a bruise. What are you talking about? Don't bruise her. She better get a bruise. She's taking bumps on a mat. You're going to get a bruise. That mat's hard. Sable's 100 pounds. You know, so I found that to be kind of a ridiculous claim. And even though Luna did say it, we don't know the state of mind that she was in at the time of that interview. And it's something that I just honestly don't believe happened. That's just me personally. Maybe you guys believe it. I just personally don't. But the WrestleMania 14 match itself is what really, I think, did it for her in terms of being like a monumental disappointment, because she went out there and had a great match. Have you guys ever seen that Mania 14 tag? It's really good. It is. And Luna went above and beyond to get Sable over. Luna went above and beyond to make Sable look good. She sold her ass off for her. And after the match, she tells the story of going backstage and everybody there is applauding, and she thinks they're applauding them. Hey, good job going out there as a professional, making this, green idiot look really good. But they were looking right past Luna and giving all the applause to Sable. And it hurt Luna's feelings to the point where Mick Foley and Owen Hart both individually spoke to her that night about what a great job she did. So that I do believe. I do believe that the locker room was clapping for Sable. Yes, but I don't believe that Vince said, if you hurt her, you're fired. No, there's no way he said that. So, I mean, Sable or Luna wouldn't have hurt Sable anyway. If Sable got hurt, it would be because of her own inexperience, not because of anything that Luna Vachon did to her. And Vince McMahon at that time probably understood that. That's why I just think that claim is ridiculous. Now, the next month, I was actually at that show. I was at Unforgiven 98 when Sable and Luna had the bra and panties match. And Sable got her bra, or I think Luna did. Sable won, and then she tore off her evening gown as well. Is that what it was? Evening gown match? I think that's what it was. And the fans were crazy that night. Sable was definitely over. And a lot of that was due to Luna putting her over. And then Jackie would go on to do much the same thing and pick up really where Luna left off. In the end, though, Gangrel tells a story about how he had to leave her. He had no choice. He just had no choice. It was a toxic environment. And he basically said that if he didn't leave her, they would both wind up dead. They were both heading down a bad road, lots of drug abuse. Even told a story where Luna spelled out "fuck you, Vince" and cocaine and snorted all of it. That's a funny and sad story all at the same time. But in the end, she would go on to leave WWE. They showed the clip from the Royal Rumble 2000 where she kind of refused to participate in that bikini contest, and she was released right after that. And not sure if that was the exact reason or not why, but she was gone right after that, and that was really the end of her career. She became a tow truck driver for a while and remained retired from the business until she was found dead by her mother in her house of a drug overdose. And apparently she was trying to snort some pills or something like that. Just really kind of an ugly scene there when she was found dead. And one thing I don't recall them getting into in the documentary, I don't know why they didn't mention this, but Andre the Giant is actually Luna Vachon's godfather. She was a kid. They were very close. And Luna's ashes was scattered on Andre's ranch in North Carolina. I wasn't paying attention to the very end. I don't remember them saying anything about that in Dark Side of the Ring. And I was like, I'm surprised I didn't mention that. But that's kind of how her life ended, in a really, really kind of sad way. And she's another example of somebody that I think in another line of work or being in a different environment or being surrounded by different people, she could easily be alive today. But unfortunately, it was kind of an ugly story, kind of a dark story. And it was a good episode. It really was. So that is pretty much wrapping up season 3. We just got one left, steroid trial, next week. And really looking forward to that one. So we'll discuss all of that probably next Sunday in the Winged Eagle when we get into the steroids. That's going to be nuts. And there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that I think we're going to learn that we didn't know there either. Probably some pretty interesting interviews. Does anybody know if it's the normal time? Feels like this could be a 2-hour episode. It'd be really cool if it was. But it's probably just a 1-hour deal. Looking forward to it next week. So there you go. There's my thoughts on Luna Vachon and Dark Side of the Ring. Luigi DeRaw Gaming, thank you, dude, for the $5. Do you think WWE should do a Luna Memorial Tournament, just a one-off, or who do you think deserves one. I don't know if Luna would deserve a one-off tournament. I don't know. WWE, I'd say AEW would be more likely to do something like that, as we've seen with the Owen Cup. And I know they do the Dusty tournament in WWE, or in NXT anyway. I don't know. I think I could almost see WWE doing a China one before Luna. Yeah, I don't see it being done on Luna. It's just doesn't seem like WWE's style to me. You know what I mean? Not that I'd be against it. I think they totally should. All right. I am going to change the subscriber chat. So you now cannot make a comment unless you are a subscriber for more than 2 hours. So there, that should stop any new accounts being made to spam the chat. There we go. I won't do that on every episode, just this week. That should help it. So yeah, we're going to do 2 hours on that. That way, that should calm down some of the ass bags, or the one ass bag. The Trump 24, like just imagine like what that says about you. You're up here writing the N-word, and you're writing all sorts of offensive shit, and then you write Trump 24, 2024. No wonder everybody has this view of you guys, because this is what it fucking does. Anyway, not to get into politics, but fuck them. They should be out of our lives, at least for the rest of this episode, and we can move on to more stuff, which is going to be Smackdown. I want to talk about Friday's Smackdown first. And like I said, Smackdown and Rampage kind of had a little head-to-head deal going on. Now, it was originally only going to be 30 minutes because the last half hour of Smackdown was going to go head-to-head with the first half hour of Rampage. And Smackdown was on FS1, not Fox, and it was being billed as a supersized Smackdown. What did that mean exactly? Nothing. It meant nothing. It meant it was a 2.5 hour Smackdown. They did nothing special, nothing more. All they did is add 30 more minutes of the same bullshit they always give us. So it was a supersized Smackdown, which we didn't need and nobody asked for, but we got it anyway. And then AEW went and put an hour-long buy-in with the Bryan Danielson and Minoru Suzuki match on YouTube, going head-to-head with the second hour of SmackDown. So after SmackDown was on for an hour, then the buy-in kicked in on YouTube for an hour, and then the final 30 minutes of SmackDown went head-to-head with the first 30 minutes of Rampage on TNT. So Friday night was fun, and I wound up being off for the show, and I did it. I had the split screen. I had Rampage here, and I had SmackDown here, and I was literally watching them both. It was fun. I liked it. Don't know if I could handle that every single week or anything, but I definitely liked it on Friday. It was fun. So anyway, SmackDown is what we're going to talk about first. We're going to kind of blow through the major points of the show here. It opened up with an Edge promo. Now, Edge and Seth Rollins basically both cut in-ring promos separately on Friday on SmackDown to hype up their Hell in the Cell match at Crown Jewel. Now, I'm really looking forward to the Hell in the Cell match. I think it's really going to help redeem Seth Rollins in a lot of ways for him to actually have a good one. And I think the program has been excellent. I think the two have worked well together. I think everything they've done has been great. However, these were just promos, just hyping up the match. They both took about 5 minutes each just to say, I'm going to beat you in Hell in the Cell. And that's all really Seth did here. Now, the delivery and what he spoke about was awesome. Edge, just like John Cena and just like so many others, are excellent at delivering their promos. Sometimes, though, I just don't really care too much about what they're saying, but that's not going to stop me from admiring how truly good they are at cutting those promos. You know what I mean? So Edge, I think he was sitting in the chair, wasn't he? And he was very, very intense. And I'm a little bit nervous for Seth Rollins. Now, before SummerSlam, I had predicted that I think Edge will come out on top of this feud, but he will not go undefeated. He will take a loss to Seth Rollins. We saw that happen on SmackDown. This should be the blow-off, and I expect Edge to win. However, with Seth Rollins' promo that took place later on in the night, I liked that he touched on the fact that the reason he is this Seth Rollins that you see in front of you right now is because of Hell in the Cell. because of what he talked about on Broken Skull Sessions with Steve Austin a few weeks ago. That Hell in the Cell debacle with The Fiend a couple of years ago changed Seth Rollins' career trajectory because he got so much heat for that. The fans were attacking him for some reason instead of WWE's idiotic booking, and he suffered for that. And Seth's online behavior hasn't done him any favors either. He does tend to alienate people sometimes and piss off the fans. So a lot of that kind of got him going into what would be this heel persona when he became the Monday Night Messiah and all this other shit. A lot of that all took place because of that terrible ending to The Fiend and Seth Rollins' Hell in the Cell match. So the fact that he kind of touched on that here, I thought was really great. Another thing that I thought was really great was what he was wearing. Again, he was kicking ass with the suit game on Friday night. He looked fucking hilarious, and I'm ready for that Hell in the Cell match at Crown Jewel. I think we're going to do our full predictions tomorrow night, but I'm picking Edge, I think, in that one because they're both making a run at the Universal title. So, this might be another shot for one or both of them. I'd be totally open to a Rollins and Roman match down the line because they've both changed a lot since the last time that they have had a run-in with each other. So I'm kind of interested either way, wherever it goes. I suppose Seth Rollins could win that blow-off, but I feel like Edge has got to win the Cell, and I don't think they're going to do a fourth match. They might. I don't know. We will see. The first match we got on SmackDown was a King of the Ring semifinal match. Finn Balor taking on Sami Zayn. Not a huge surprise in the outcome here, but damn, what a good little match they had. Balor in the end won with the coup de grace, and Sami Zayn, as we know, doesn't really do the Saudi shows, so you figured Balor was going to win and go on to the finals there anyway. He'll be taking on the winner of, Jinder and Xavier tomorrow? Man, I hope it's not Jinder, but it might be. We'll see. And we'll know after tomorrow night, and I'll be able to give a full prediction on the finals then when we do the predictions tomorrow evening. After that, I loved this segment. Now, this was even kind of spoiled to us by Fightful Select earlier on in the day. They had gotten wind of what WWE had planned for the segment between Naomi and Sonya Deville. Now, Sonya Deville is supposed to make her return to the ring on Friday night to take on Naomi. Of course, Sonya's been treating Naomi like shit the past few weeks, and last week it was announced that Sonya said, "You're going to be facing me in a match." Now, Fightful Select had spoiled earlier on in the day. I don't want to say spoil because I don't care about being spoiled. I read the article, and I clicked on it, and they basically said that they were going to plan some sort of a swerve for this match, which made a lot of sense because I felt like if Sonya was going to return to the ring in a full-blown one-on-one match, man, just doing it like this in the middle of SmackDown is kind of odd. I think they'd be better served by trying to further the storyline and the issue between Naomi and Sonya Deville. So Naomi comes out to the ring first, and then Sonya comes out dressed full authority role gear. She's got the blazer, she's got the tie, and she said, "Hey, Naomi, I didn't get to finish what I was saying last week because as soon as I said you were going to wrestle me, you stormed out, but you didn't let me finish and say that this match is going to be a handicap match." And she introduces Shayna Baszler as her partner to take on Naomi. Now, on one hand, this fucking pisses me off because I don't understand why they have a draft, say the changes aren't taking place until the 22nd, but then bring people over anyway. They're doing this on both shows. It's absolutely infuriating to me, and it drives me nuts, but it's still made for a good segment here. So that's kind of where you have to, on one hand, I'm like, God damn it, why are they doing this? But on the other hand, sometimes it gives us a great match. So whatever. I guess it's a little bit of a give and take. So it's now a handicap match. Naomi actually puts up a pretty good fight here and is able to fight off Shayna for a while until she's countered. The numbers game is too much. Sonya actually does get physical. She stays kind of out of the action at first and then winds up getting a little bit physical, and she's actually the one that pins Naomi for the win. So that whole entire segment I thought was really good, and it sets up a big return or something going down between Naomi and Sonya, and it's nice to see Naomi doing something significant. They haven't died. Like I've said before, I'm not really a big fan of the feel the glow shit. Just doesn't do it for me. But here, I'm kind of seeing a little bit of a change in Naomi. Number one, she looked great, basically in the 2-1 affair against those two, and she held her own against Shayna Baszler. But this is going to maybe bring out a different side of Naomi. She is getting royally fucked over and done wrong here by the Authority. And I'm wondering how long it's going to take for her to go to hubby for help. They got a lot of pull and a lot of stroke, as they say. The Usos last Monday said they're on Raw because they're with Roman Reigns and they can do whatever they want. Well, if they can do whatever they want, why the hell is he not protecting his wife? Jimmy, is it? Which one's married to her? So one of them needs to step up and help out Naomi a little bit. But at the same time, I would like to see this whole situation maybe help transform Naomi and give her a little bit more of an aggressive edge. Because if she eventually snaps and she's able to get Sonya cornered by herself and she beats the shit out of her, that could be some good stuff. So we'll eyeball that, and it's turning out to be a much better angle than I thought it would be. We also had Zelina Vega taking on Carmella in the semifinals of the Queen's Crown Tournament. 2.5 minutes in this match. And we had Zelina rolling up Carmella for the win when the two of them backstage, I guess, agreed for Carmella, not to put that ridiculous mask that she's been wearing on during the match. So I guess during the match, Liv Morgan shows up and takes the mask or does something to the mask, which, of course, distracts Carmella. It's a tournament match. You'd think she'd let the mask go for the sake of the Queen's Crown, but that's all she can think about. She's watching Liv Morgan. Zelina rolls her up and advances, and Zelina fucking Vega is in the finals of the Queen's Crown Tournament. I really hope she faces Shayna Baszler in the finals of that. That would be great. A silly segment with Happy Talk. I guess Happy Talk is going to be taking over the Kevin Owens show. Madcap Moss is out there telling his stupid jokes. Boogs and Nakamura come out to spoil the party. That's all to really say about that. We had a Street Fight Tag Team title match between the Usos and the Street Profits. Good match between those two as well. That's when I think the buy-in had started, I believe. And I was watching more of that and paying less attention to what the Usos and the Street Profits were doing. But in the end, the Usos retained the titles after a big double splash from the top for the win. Would still like to see Montez maybe break off in singles at some point, but Profits are together at least for right now. And then we got the really good match. I enjoyed this one immensely. Becky Lynch taking on Sasha Banks. Haven't seen these two in the ring against each other in quite a while, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of one-on-one. I don't know when the last time they faced one-on-one. Feels in my head like it's been a while, but at least a year or two, maybe longer. So Bianca Belair, of course, is on commentary for this. The three of these women have got the triple threat match at Crown Jewel, as we know. And this was an interesting finish here. I'm really glad that we got a match between these two, and they gave us a finish. Again, this is probably due to some of that competition that we were talking about. If there was no AEW or no Rampage or nothing else to worry about, I think we would have gotten a DQ finish here. Bianca would have ran in, big schmaz, same old shit, right? But instead, we got a finish, a winner, albeit with some outside interference, but it gave us some history. And that history is Becky Lynch being pinned to the mat for the first time since Royal Rumble 2019 in a match that wasn't a cash-in anyway. And that's a long time. So Bianca Belair, like I said, is on commentary. Becky, I think they kind of get into it on the outside of the ring or something like that. As Becky is getting back in the ring, Bianca whips her with the hair, and that allows Sasha to hit her with a backstabber and pin Becky Lynch. So it was really interesting to see Becky get pinned. Now, to me, after that loss, after Becky not losing for 2.5 years, nearly 3 years being pinned, I cannot see her now dropping the title at Crown Jewel. So we'll do the predictions tomorrow, but the closer we get to this thing, the more it feels like it's going to be Becky and Charlotte saying, here you go, take my title, which I don't want to see, but that's what they're going to fucking do. And then in the main event, the main event segment, I should say, it was the contract signing between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and this turned out to be so fun. It was simple but good, and I like that WWE is starting to try to do different things with their contract signings now. A couple of the ones in recent history, in recent memory anyway, have been not your typical, there's always got to be a brawl type of stuff, and even if there is a brawl, it's a fun brawl. The way Bianca kind of got into it with Becky recently and all that. So I've enjoyed the contract signings in WWE. They haven't been that stupid lately. So you get Roman and Heyman out there first. Adam Pearce is out there to moderate this thing. By the way, the final 30 minutes of Smackdown went commercial free because of Rampage. So right after Becky's loss, There's only about like 9 minutes left in the show. So Pierce is rushing everybody in. Come on, let's go. Let's get the ring set up. So you don't even go to commercial. Pat McAfee actually thinks they're going to commercial. And he's like, oh shit, I forgot. We're not going to commercial. So they get everything set up real quick. Roman Reigns comes out first. I think Paul Heyman says a few things, and then they bring out Brock Lesnar. So Brock comes out. He's got his flannel. He's got his ponytail. He's got the pyro. He comes down. He sits right down in the chair. Roman is standing at the head of the table where he likes to sit. Brock sits down. He puts his feet up, very CM Punk 2011 style, and Roman signs the contract and hands it to Brock, and I love this. Without even looking at it, Brock grabs it, just scribbles, and slams it down. And Roman's like, you dumbass. You didn't even read it? You just signed it? And Brock, playing the mind games, he just looks right at Roman, and he goes, I did read it. I read it earlier on today with my advocate, Paul Heyman. And then he leaves, just leaving Roman in the ring like, and that's what I kind of like. Daniel Bryan did this to Roman Reigns a little bit too. Roman Reigns is so wrapped up in this persona and this head of the table and this acknowledge me shit that he's very, very easily manipulated and fucked with in the head, because he's so, almost like he's got a fragile ego, and it's so easy to get him to distrust people. And this whole time, he's been really suspicious of Paul Heyman, and so for Brock to throw this at him and then leave and then just kind of get Roman all in a tizzy, you would think that Roman is like, Brock, I can see through your bullshit. You're just trying to fuck with me. You're trying to get my mind out of the game ahead of this title match. You would think somebody with Roman's experience by now would understand this, but he doesn't. And a lot of times he can be messed with, from a mind games perspective. And that's what I like what Brock did to him. Now, Paul Heyman had said a while back prior to this issue starting in an interview that we were going to see some really interesting twists and turns and possibly some swerves in this angle. And if Paul Heyman turns on Roman Reigns, is that really going to be a swerve? No, because Brock Lesnar's been saying it's going to happen the whole time. So part of me wonders if it's a part of a bigger picture, if this is, I don't know. I think maybe it's going to turn out to be some sort of a bigger ruse by Roman and Heyman. And I honestly don't know tomorrow night in the Raw review who I'm going to predict to win this match. I still am not totally sure. I feel like it's going to be Roman, but hell, Brock lost last time he was here. And with this wild card of Paul Heyman being in the middle, it would seem weird to go out there and just have a Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar match. Roman beats him, and that's it. If you do that, where do you go from there? You could do a schmaz, you could do a disqualification, you could do something like that if you wanted. But I don't know. A lot of times we see results in Saudi Arabia that I'm not expecting to see. When Brock beat Cain Velasquez in like seconds, I'm like, what the hell? And then of course Goldberg beating The Fiend. We don't want to get into that. And some of the other crazy shit they've done over there. I think anything can happen in this match. But we'll dive into it more tomorrow, and I'll really start thinking about it hard. But I liked the contract signing. I liked what was done, and Brock just kind of messing with Roman Reigns at the end there. That was great shit. So overall, I don't know what grade I would give SmackDown, but I wouldn't give it a bad grade. It was a lot of typical SmackDown shit. I personally did not need that show to be 2.5 hours. They could have cut a lot of stuff on this show, and it would have been just fine. But we got a good main event caliber, WrestleMania main event caliber contract signing. Great matches between Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and Sami Zayn and Finn Balor. King and Queen of the Ring were furthered, and overall, I thought the show was fine. Not great, fine. I'll give it a 7. Rampage, on the other hand, was all sorts of fun. Jesus Christ. Like I said, the buy-in went live on YouTube an hour into SmackDown. So that's when they went live on YouTube, and they had a lot of fun matches here. They had Ty Conti defeating Santana Garrett, who's making some AEW appearances. Great to see her over there. Pound for pound, one of the hottest women in wrestling. My God. Bobby Fish defeated Lee Moriarty, and it's good to see Fish there and some of these younger guys like Moriarty, like Daniel Garcia, like Dante Martin, these young guys getting these matches, putting in these good efforts, and in the losing effort, actually elevating themselves. You just love to see this shit. And of course, the main event anyway of the buy-in was just the super bonkers fun match between Bryan Danielson and Minoru Suzuki. The fact that that was given to us for free on YouTube. Fans who criticize this are fucking crazy. I can't believe they're giving that away for free. They only do 4 fucking pay-per-views a year. Isn't this great? Isn't it awesome that we get great free TV shit in the age of wrestling that we're living in right now with this competition? We just pitched this whole idea of WWE reducing their pay-per-views and doing more themed TV shows like Dynamite does. You know, certain times of the year, some of these Dynamites like the Fyter Fests and some of these other ones have pay-per-view vibes to them with pay-per-view caliber matches. That gives you a reason to want to tune in. Nobody's going like, oh, fuck, I got to sit through another Dynamite this week of them doing the same shit they did last week. No, all these weeks are different. And WWE, I think, could benefit greatly from adopting that type of schedule for their TVs and pay-per-views. And I think they would see a big boost in ratings and a big boost in interest overall if they would just do more fun shit on TV. You don't have to put all your stuff on TV, but just do more fun stuff on TV. So the fans who are complaining about Danielson and Minoru Suzuki being on free TV, why is that a problem for you? I have no idea why that would bother you in the slightest. There's not enough pay-per-views for all these matches to happen on pay-per-views only. They have to happen on TV. And for them to want to give something fun like this away on YouTube to where anybody basically can access it, I see no downside to that at all. And I thought it was fun. And the match was fun. And it was a war. You know, Danielson last night was still showing some of the battle scars from the match he had with Suzuki on Friday. You know, in the end, of course, he got the win. But man, that 50-plus-year-old Minoru took Bryan to the limit, and I just love that Danielson is able to get these matches. This is exactly why he left WWE, to get matches like this. Because if he was on Smackdown on Friday instead, he would have just been wrestling whoever the fuck he's feuding with. He would have either been wrestling that person in a tag match or wrestling that person in a one-on-one match or doing commentary during that person's match, or that person would be doing commentary during Bryan's match. It would be just one of 6 fucking scenarios that they do and do only. Bryan Danielson here seems like he's having more fun, he's spreading his wings, and he's just letting it all hang out and having the time of his life. Match was good. Match was a blast. Free on YouTube. To complain about this is to be insane, basically. The main card would then start on TNT, and right after, and like I said, the first half hour of this was going to go head-to-head with the last half hour of SmackDown, and we get CM Punk wrestling Matt Seidel in the opener. Another great match. I enjoyed Danielson and Minoru Suzuki a little bit more, but I really did enjoy Punk and Seidel. I like some of the guys that Punk has been working with so far. Kind of a slow start, getting his legs back, getting his timing back, trying to get in the ring and, you know, work off any rust and see, you know, what kind of a wrestler he's going to be now that he's 7 years older than the last time he got in the ring. So this was all really fun, really good. Punk won, of course, like we knew he would. And I was really happy with the wrestling on Rampage in terms of those back-to-backers they gave us. Danielson and Suzuki, followed by Punk and Seidel on TV. Great shit. Ruby Soho defeated the Bunny. Little extracurricular shit went down after that match as well. And the main event of Rampage was the 6-man between Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara taking on Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, and Junior Dos Santos. So this match was everywhere. Santos was in the ring. His punches looked like shit, but he was taking some pretty good bumps in there. This match was better than I thought. I think AEW is doing a good job by putting one MMA guy in there at a time, you know, not too many to where, you know, they kind of get lost in there, and I thought it was all fine. And it was fun at the end, especially with the finish. Jericho has got the Lion Tamer on Scorpio Sky. Paige Van Zant, who I think was at ringside for this, she jumps up on the apron to distract the referee, and then Jorge Masvidal comes running in with a running knee to Jericho's face. He goes down, and Scorpio Sky pins Chris Jericho, which I think he's pinned him now for a second time. Didn't Scorpio pin Jericho in a match back when Jericho was a heel and Scorpio was a face? I feel like that happened. So I think he's got 2 victories now over Chris Jericho. Everybody gets their asses kicked, and that's when Santana and Ortiz hit the ring to clear everybody out and kind of make the save. So as we would see last night, there has been a big match proposed between these 2 groups, and we could see this turn into some sort of a gimmick thing. We'll talk about the match that Jericho proposed in a minute, but I feel like it could be blood and guts, it could be a stadium stampede, or it could be some completely new concept that AEW creates. They've created a lot of new concepts with the Stadium Stampede and the Mimosa Mayhem and all these other shit that they do. Why not throw something new at us here? Although I kind of feel like Blood and Guts might be more appropriate for this type of feud, especially if they can corner Dan Lambert in the ring. And they should do that. They should do a deal where, like, if the baby faces win, Lambert's got to spend 5 minutes in the cage or something like that. So I feel like that could develop for Full Gear as we get closer to Full Gear. But we'll talk about Dynamite here in 1 second. Let me check out the super chats, make sure I didn't miss anything. I think I got one coming in here from Luigi DeRaw, another $5 from you. Thank you, man. I love the fact that AEW is forcing WWE to change. They have been in talks with MLW, whose heavyweight champ is Jacob Fatu, cousin of Roman. Yes, I know about Jacob's run over there. I heard about WWE kind of talking to MLW, trying to get to any forbidden door that they possibly can, but I also feel like WWE should not worry about that. It feels like they've kind of submitted on other stuff. Okay, we're gonna let AEW have the fan base that our former version of NXT had, and if they want to work with the Impacts and stuff, we'll let them. I don't know how working with MLW is going to change much for WWE, but we'll see. They might wind up doing that. That leaves us with AEW Dynamite from last night. It's really the only thing we have left here to talk about. And I thought the show was great. It was in Miami, looked to be a smaller crowd, but again, like we talked about last week in the podcast, and I proposed WWE running smaller buildings so they look more full. This one looked pretty small, but it looked full, and the atmosphere was great. The Adam Cole Bay spot was still just as loud as it ever was, and I thought it was a really, really fun show in Miami last night. CM Punk joined the team on commentary for this show. And before we get into the results, let's talk about the Eliminator bracket, the Eliminator tournament bracket. They didn't reveal this until the end of Dynamite last night, but I have it right here, so we might as well discuss it. I'm going to pull it up here on the screen as well. Whoops. That's my ticker. Where's my bracket? There it is. There's my bracket. So as you see here, over on the left side, we've got Dark Order's 10 against Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy against Powerhouse Hobbs. So the winners of those two matches will meet in the semifinals to go to the finals. Over on the right, we've got Dustin Rhodes and Bryan Danielson in an opening round match, and Lance Archer against Eddie Kingston. So these are interesting names to choose, but I think you've set yourself up for some really fun matches. Danielson and Rhodes should just be interesting. I'm pretty sure they had run-ins, right? They had to have worked back in like 13 when the Rhodes brothers were tag champs and Kane and Bryan were together. I'm sure Dustin and Bryan had some run-ins back then, but it's been a long time since they've seen each other inside of a ring. And down on the bottom, you've got Lance Archer and Eddie Kingston, who are just going to murder each other. So that's just going to be fun. Cassidy and Powerhouse Hobbs, I think, is going to be interesting due to the huge size difference there. And Moxley and Dark Order's 10, I really like 10, but, come on. So looking at this bracket, who isn't picking Danielson and Moxley in the finals? Now, you got to remember, this is a world title eliminator tournament. The winner of this is going to get a title shot. So we're assuming, I think most people are assuming, that the champion after Full Gear isn't going to be Kenny Omega. It's going to be Adam Page. It's going to be a babyface. So should he face a heel here? And if you're looking at the heels, if you've got a new champion, babyface champion, and Hangman Page, even with the heels you have here, Hobbs I really like, and that would actually, Hobbs would be a great pick, to be honest, because whoever wins this isn't winning the title. Hangman Page, you would assume. Oh, actually, I should say this. If Hangman wins the title, whoever wins the Eliminator is not winning the title. If Omega retains, then it's a completely different story. Then the winner of the Eliminator tournament might actually win the title. But I'm assuming Page is going to be champion after Full Gear, so I'm going to look at the tournament with that in mind. And if I have that in mind, I think Powerhouse Hobbs, pardon me, my back really itches. I think Powerhouse Hobbs would be a great pick for that because it would give him a big win, a tournament victory, and it would give him a title shot. And even if he loses, which he will, because you're not going to take the belt off of Hangman Page immediately after he wins it, it's going to be one of those situations that's going to give him a big-time match, big-time couple of feathers in his cap, winning a tournament that has people like Moxley and Bryan Danielson in it, and then going in to get a world title shot. If he puts up a good fight and he, loses in a really good effort, it's going to get people to take notice of Powerhouse Hobbs. So I would have no issue with Hobbs winning the tournament. Actually, he's kind of my Cinderella pick. I'd really like to see that, but I think the smart money, obviously, is on Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. So if it comes down to those two, what do you do? Do you do Bryan Danielson and you go Danielson and Hangman Page? I'd love to see that match, but I don't know. I almost think like Moxley would make more sense because a lot of people have been calling for a Jon Moxley heel turn. So if he turns heel, then he'd be the perfect guy to win this, to face Adam Page. And if Adam Page can defeat a heel Jon Moxley in his first title defense, that's going to get him off and running big time with his title run there if he can knock off somebody like that. So if it is going to be Jon Moxley, then maybe you do something where, I don't think Kenny Omega is going to come out here and influence the match because he's going to have his own match later on. But if Omega was to do something to Danielson or whatever to cost him the match, maybe the Elite or the Super Click attacks Danielson prior to the match or something like that. I don't know. And then when Moxley wins to go face Page, then Danielson can pick up where he left off with Omega, and we can get a return match between those two without the fear of having a title on the line. So they could do it that way. But then again, Danielson, if they want to put the belt on him, it's going to be hard to do that unless he does something like earns or wins a title match in a ladder match or battle royal or a tournament. Otherwise, you'd think, theoretically, from the way AEW runs things on TV, that you'd want his win-loss record to be built up a little bit before he's getting title shots or whatnot. So I feel like this could be a good way to get Danielson to the title if they want to get as much out of him as they can, because he has had issues in his career getting cleared. He is full throttle right now, and he is wrestling balls to the wall. If they want him to be champ, it might be best just to do this now while he's healthy. He's 100%. He's having the best matches in a long time of his career, maybe arguably. All that's happening right now. Strike while the iron's hot kind of thing. And the only way to achieve that is to have Danielson win some sort of a tournament that gives yourself a reason to give him a title shot instead of just giving him one. You know what I mean? So this could be their way to achieve that. So we've got some time prior to Full Gear before we do full predictions on this, but I feel like it could go one of those ways. Moxley to face a heel Moxley to face a babyface Page, a face Daniel Bryan to face Kenny Omega, who somehow survives his match with Adam Page, and they put the belt on Danielson, or a sleeper pick, Powerhouse Hobbs wins the tournament, gets a match against new babyface champion Hangman Page, and loses, but it's still good exposure for Hobbs. Wins a tournament, gets a title shot, main event on TV, whatever. Good exposure for him. Win-win. Win-win. So I haven't mentioned anything about Eddie or Lance or Dark Order or Cassidy. Or Dustin. Just don't think it's going to be any of them. I think you're looking at Danielson Mox with the possibility of a Powerhouse Hobbs. But that's it. A Moxley-Kingston final could be fun, but we have gotten that feud already. So we will see. We'll see what happens. But anyway, there's your eliminator bracket. Place your bets. Yeah, and I'd love for Hobbs to be a main event player as well, Monique. That's why I think something like this for him could be a great way to get him that experience and exposure and main event title match experience, because he's not going to be able to win the title if Hangman wins at Full Gear. He's a brand new champion. They're probably going to want to run with Hangman for a while, but I still think having that match could benefit Hobbs greatly. So we're kind of going to half-ass root for him. I still want to see Danielson and that sort of thing, but maybe my sleeper pick, Cinderella pick, will be Powerhouse Hobbs. In terms of the matches last night on Dynamite, they were great, including the opener. Might have been my favorite match of the weekend. Maybe not the favorite match itself, but a really nice moment between the two that I think stands out as my favorite overall moment of the weekend. And, of course, Dante Martin was out a couple of weeks ago kind of demanding competition or somebody to face. Malachi took him up on that offer, so now we get the one-on-one match. And this match was really fucking great. This was not a squash by any means. Dante Martin took Malachi Black to the limit, and these guys fought their asses off, especially Dante Martin. And as the match progressed here, he came awfully close to having Malachi Black beat and on the ropes a little bit here. Now, Black targeted Dante's leg and was kind of working over that, and the finish was really, really good here. Dante, he looked kind of funny. He had like some smudge of Malachi's eye paint on his face, and it was kind of distracting. But he's got the injured leg, so he goes for like a springboard on the top rope, but he actually is able to spring himself off with one leg. It looked incredible. And of course, Malachi gets out of the way. Martin stumbles to get to his feet and bam, eats a black mass, goes down. Malachi takes a long time to kind of get down and cover him and pin him for the 1-2-3. But what I liked about this is as he's leaving, it reminded me, I've brought this up before too, it kind of reminded me a little bit of what The Undertaker did. I think he faced Heidenreich or somebody like that, one of those crazy heels they set up for him. And he finally tombstoned and beat him. Might have been Luther Reigns, somebody like that. Finally tombstoned and beat him, but he was taken to the limit so badly that when the match was over, he kind of looked down like, he goes, what the hell was that about? And that's kind of the vibe I got from Malachi Black. He was looking down at Dante like, that kid almost had me. And then as Malachi is leaving, he gets all the way up the ramp and he kind of turns his head, just gives a little nod. Just a little nod. Meant the world to me. I don't know why. It was just something about that. Those little moments, those little things, those little details that you can do in wrestling when you actually care enough to think them through can be so valuable, and they can tell such a great story. Malachi's been undefeated, untouchable, vicious. And for him to turn around and acknowledge somebody, all right, kid, you're going to be something, that's a huge deal. That is a huge deal. And that's why I like to see what AEW does with a lot of this young talent. Like we saw, like I said earlier, with Lee Moriarty, and we've seen how Daniel Garcia has been having all these big-time matches, and Dante Martin as well. And even though they're losing, these are career-elevating matches for these young guys, and they are making a name for themselves. They're getting noticed, and this is something you can always come back to for any of these guys that suffer losses now. You know, down the road, you come back and, you know, maybe you get a victory or you start on your winning ways. You know, a lot of their future success is going to be traced back to a lot of these matches they're having right now. And this is definitely one of them for Dante Martin. Great opener. Great stuff between Black and Dante. Loved it. Later on, Dante Martin is interviewed backstage with Lio Rush, who's kind of been, I guess, acting as his manager. And Lio goes on to say that Dante Martin has a new tag team partner, and it's me. So Lio is going to be Martin's tag team partner now. Martin was a little bit reluctant. You got to wonder what Dante's brother thinks of all this, who's just been sitting on his ass. So Lio is going to be back in the ring, and he's going to be teaming up with Dante Martin, I guess. And I'm really liking what I see from Lio Rush as well. Seems like he's come a long way. Seems like he's matured a lot. I'm really glad he's there because I always thought he was stupidly good. So if he can just take a break from retiring 7 times a year, I'm really excited to see him back in the ring, and good stuff there from Black and Martin. Then we get a big I almost said AT&T because I have America's top team written down as AT&T. AT&T. Inner Circle promo was next. Inner Circle is in the ring. Jericho's rambling on with his dated promo type of stuff, messing, saying sexist shit to Paige Van Zandt and whatnot, and basically goes on to challenge America's top team, who is now on the ramp. All of Inner Circle, including Proud and Powerful, are in the ring. Top team is on the ramp with Dan Lambert, and Jericho proposes a big 5-on-5 tag team match. That's what he wants to happen, and that's what he wants to go down. Now, Lambert starts running his mouth. You can't even hear him because the small crowd they had in Miami last night was drowning him out with boos. This guy's got go-away heat like I've never seen. That's why I like this idea of doing maybe a blood and guts match with the stipulation if top team loses, Lambert gets 5 minutes of the ring with Hager or something like that. That would be fucking amazing. So Lambert starts running his mouth, saying all of his typical stuff, but also says that they want and they are setting their sights on championship gold. And the only person in that ring right now with any championship gold is Sammy Guevara, and lays down a challenge for Sammy Guevara to face Scorpio Sky, I believe, next week for the TNT title. And of course, Sammy agrees. So this is going to be your upcoming match. I didn't catch if that match has been officially made for next week or if they're going to bump it to a couple of weeks, but it's coming up. And I got to say, there is a really good chance, I think, that Sammy Guevara could be one of the shortest running TNT champions ever. I think it would be a good idea to put the belt on Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky was one of the people that I originally thought would be a future TNT champion one day. When they first introduced the belt, I said that belt would be perfect for a guy like Sky. And the fact that he's getting a title match now really soon makes me think he could actually win the title. However, America's Top Team have gotten the better of the Inner Circle in the last couple of outings. So this might be a good chance for Inner Circle to get one back here and have Sammy beat Scorpio Sky. I actually think that's more likely, but I do think there is a possibility that they could put the TNT title on Scorpio Sky to really further the issue between these two factions. So we will see, and whatever that 5-on-5 match turns out to be, might just be a regular old tag, but for as much heat as this storyline is building now, I feel like you got to gimmick this. You got to put it in something. You got to put it on something. Somebody's got to do something weird in whatever match they do between those groups. Like I said earlier, we also had a title change last night. This was fun. The Lucha Brothers were putting the AAA tag team titles on the line against Las Superanas with Andre El Idolo. Now, this was for the AAA tag team titles. It was announced, I think, the previous week that the Luchas would be taking on a masked tag team. They come out there wearing this green shit. They're in masks. Luckily, CM Punk isn't falling for this at all, which I loved. He did not even try to pretend like he didn't know who they were, which I loved. I saw some fans complaining about Punk knowing and saying that it was FTR. I don't know why you would complain about that. Complaining about wrestling, you're complaining about an announcer just using his eyes to see. One of the things that I think bothers many of us wrestling fans is how fucking idiotic the announcers not only are, but also think that we are. When they see people, like they acted like they didn't know who Doudrop was. They didn't know who T-Bar and Mace were. These are people that were in NXT. Now they're coming to the main roster. Who are they? You know, at least CM Punk is like, this is bullshit. That's FTR. You can tell. Look at their bodies. Look at their bodies. You know, so I actually liked that he called them out for that. And in the end, they would win. Now, Tully Blanchard would do a run-in, which allowed Dax to hit Rey Fenix with the belt and then hit him with a brainbuster for the win. So Las Superanas are now your AAA tag team champions. And I love that they did this title change, because what is FTR's entire gimmick? They don't like the flippy shit. They don't like the lucha stuff. The most anti-lucha libre team in the world is now your AAA tag team champions. Imagine if they go to Mexico and defend those titles. Oh, good stuff. Very smart move putting the belts on those guys. That was great. I found Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta especially fun. Way more fun than I thought it was going to be. Enjoyed that match. Moxley won with the paradigm shift. Good stuff. And in another match that I really enjoyed was Adam Cole and the Young Bucks taking on the Dark Order, Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. The fake kiss was awesome. The Bucks and Cole try to do that spot where Cole's got the guy in the camel clutch, and then the Bucks come in to do the kiss on the cheek. But Silver and Reynolds, I think it's Cole's got Evil Uno in the clutch. Silver and Reynolds grab the feet of the Bucks, pull them outside of the ring. Then they run in the ring and come to kiss Adam Cole. And then when he realizes it, the face he makes, and he's looking at him, that was just fucking great stuff. In the end, it wasn't enough for the Dark Order, though. They would fall victim to a Panama Sunrise, Alex Reynolds would fall victim to a Panama Sunrise, followed by a BTE trigger, followed by the boom for the win. Super Click gets the win. After the match, Jungle Boy runs out there in street clothes, starts attacking, grabs a chair. He's kind of overwhelmed at first. He gets out of the ring, grabs a chair from underneath, runs off the Click members, except for Brandon Cutler, and he's left in there all by himself Jungle locks him in the snare trap and uses this coal spray on his face. It was great shit. So they ran away from Jungle. That was all a really fun match. The Arn and Cody Rhodes training thing was a little bit weird. He was in the ring and Arn was giving him shit and they were slapping around and stuff and doing all that. And they were trying to get Cody kind of focused on his upcoming match that he has next Saturday on Dynamite against Malachi Black. We ain't done yet. Damn it. Black versus Cody 3 next week. So this is either going to be Cody's redemption or it's going to be another chapter in the transformation of Cody Rhodes into full-blown heel. If he loses again, I hope he loses again because I just don't want to see Black beat. I don't want to see Black's first loss come at the expense of some stupid-ass Cody redemption storyline. I don't give a fuck. So I hope next week Black wins for the third time. I think that would be better for Black to win again just to really help solidify this angle with Cody and Arn, and maybe that really makes Arn snap. And then Cody goes full heel. I don't know, but I don't want to see Cody beat Malachi Black. I just don't. Just don't. MJF had a promo later on. Oh, that reminds me. You guys got to help me out. I'm lost. There's a part of the storyline that I don't understand. One thing that I didn't understand, it's probably just because I missed it. There's a lot of wrestling going on, a lot to keep track of. I didn't get what was going on between MJF and FTR. After FTR won the titles, they're with Andre El Idolo. MJF comes in. He wants his money. El Idolo pays him. And then MJF is like, you can have FTR for just one night. I didn't even think FTR and MJF were associated with each other. So where the hell did that come from? And where the fuck was Tully? So I have no idea what I was watching. They were in the stairwell, FTR, El Idolo, MJF, what the fuck was that about? But later, MJF would come out to the ring, and of course, he's doing his program right now with Darby Allin. So he gets in the ring, he says, "Silencio, por favor," for the Miami crowd, which I thought was hilarious. He then goes on to stage this match. He's basically calling out Darby Allin, who's not medically cleared and is not in the building. And he brings out referee Bryce Remsburg and Wardlow to be out there to count Darby Allin out. So Bryce starts counting. He gets all the way up to 8, and that's when the lights go out. Sting comes out. He's got the baseball bat. MJF actually pushes Wardlow into Sting, who eats a baseball bat shot to his gut, and Wardlow rolls out. So I'm glad they are still not forgetting the fact that about a year ago now, they planted seeds for Wardlow to turn on MJF or MJF to turn on Wardlow, one or the other, and they're still kind of doing this. So Wardlow is yet to be fed up with him and attack. I'm ready for Wardlow to go full Alex Riley on MJF and just beat the hell out of him the way Riley did to The Miz. I feel like that's coming sometime down the line and might even result in a big MJF loss somewhere on pay-per-view or something. So we will see. We also had Penelope Ford defeating Kara Hogan. Not much to say about that match. Adam Page was interviewed by Tony Schiavone in the ring. He's over as hell. Cowboy shit chants all over the place. Talked about his match with Kenny Omega at Full Gear. Talked about his decision to leave Japan and Ring of Honor to come start this new vision in AEW with all of his friends and the journey he's been on so far, and how he let the fans down not being the first AEW champion, but he's not going to let them down this time. That sort of shit. Good stuff. Hangman's over. I hope he wins the title at Full Gear for sure. And that leaves us with the main event. Bryan Danielson back in the ring again, taking on longtime rival Bobby Fish. Lots of history going way back to the Ring of Honor days. Again, much like the Suzuki match, great match, extremely physical. And I loved the finish with Danielson locking in the heel hook, and immediately Fish, no choice but to tap out. CM Punk even put it over on commentary, what a devastating hold that is. And once you're in it, you better be tapping. CM Punk was great on commentary all night. They also did the interview backstage with Serena Deeb. I think they were talking about how she won the match against Hikaru Shida last week. And CM Punk with a great line on commentary. He goes, "What a great head of hair on Serena Deeb." Loved it. Fucking loved it. I like that AEW does little callbacks to WWE. They bring shit up. CM Punk shaved Serena Deeb's head as part of the Straight Edge Society. Malachi Black is still selling an injury that he suffered on the competitor's program over a year ago. That's awesome. That's fucking awesome. So anyway, when I look back at what Smackdown gave us, what Rampage gave us, and what Dynamite gave us last night, I've definitely had worse 24 hours in wrestling for sure. Great stuff. Had a blast watching all that. What a week. And what a week we got coming up. I mean, think about it. We got a free hour-long buy-in on YouTube. We had Smackdown and Rampage head-to-head on a Friday night. We had a Saturday night Dynamite. We got a Thursday night pay-per-view. There's all sorts of shit going on. So there's definitely been worse times to be a wrestling fan in life. But anyway, right at the 2-hour mark of this podcast, that is going to wrap it up for my notes, especially since the audience is kind of dwindling now. That football game's on. I'll go ahead and get out of here. Let me see if there's anything else going on. In the chat, Angie, what's up? Cody's ego can't handle another loss. I think it can if it's part of the story. If it's part of a bigger story, of Cody becoming somebody else, I think he could handle another loss. If there's more to the loss than just a loss. Might be just what he needs to put him over that edge or whatever. So I can kind of see it going both ways. I really hope he loses, but I feel like they're kind of building him here for redemption, especially with Arn trying to motivate him and stuff. But if this doesn't work and Cody makes another mistake or goes down in a way that Arn Anderson feels like could be avoided, Arn Anderson's been pretty gnarly lately with the gunshots and the slapping Cody and stuff. Who knows what he'll do to Cody Rhodes if Cody comes up short again due to some stupid decision he made. So we shall see. Oh yeah, the Pinnacle. Thank you, Vince McMahon. I forgot that the Pinnacle existed. I completely forgot that the Pinnacle existed. Okay. Yeah, the Pinnacle. I forgot about that. Shit. I had completely forgotten. Thank you for reminding me that the Pinnacle exists. That whole match against the Inner Circle. How the fuck did I forget that? When I'm watching that segment, I'm like, I don't get this. Why is MJF back there? Now it all makes sense. Thank you, guys. See, that's why you're here, is to educate poor Greg. Victor Colon, thank you for the $5 as well. I just saw that the steroid trial episode is in 2 weeks. Thank you for that. It airs on the 28th, and the steroid episode is only 1 hour. Thank you for looking that up. I was thinking that it might be 2 hours. Maybe one of the reason I thought that it was 2 hours long is because it actually airs in 2 weeks. Maybe that's what I saw, and I confused it. But okay, good to know. So Dark Side will not be next Thursday. It will be the Thursday after, and it will be the steroid trial, 1 hour. That'll be a fun one to chronicle. By the time that one airs, we will be back to the Saturday Winged Eagles, which means we'll be talking about that episode of the Dark Side of the Ring on the October 30th edition of the Winged Eagle, because on the 31st, we're going to do watch-alongs on Halloween night. So anywho, if you guys can do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button out the door on your way out the door, I would greatly appreciate it. And thanks for being here on a very rare Sunday Winged Eagle podcast. Have a good rest of your night. Enjoy the game if you're watching it. And make sure you're here tomorrow night immediately following Raw for a full show review and Crown Jewel predictions. It's going to be fun. Y'all take care. Peace.